One of the things that changed me the most while living abroad was actually not the traveling itself, but it was the teaching. Teaching outside of the United States forced me to realize that the way Americans view education is not universal. And honestly, once I saw different educational environments with my own eyes, I can never fully look at schooling the same way again. If you're new here, karibu, a big Swahili welcome to you. My name is Yahaira, and this channel is about building a regenerative way of living. I share my journey as an educator, filmmaker, birth worker, and future homesteader building what I call kin and soil. So first things first, let me say this clearly. I am not saying that schools in Africa are perfect, because they're not. You know, there are still remnants of colonial systems which honestly give me the ick. There are Western educational frameworks that still dominate, and there are underfunded schools everywhere. and yes, there's also forms of discipline that I personally don't agree with. Like, despite all of that though, there are still some deep differences about the energy surrounding education abroad. And I think a huge part of it comes down to gratitude. In the United States, many people here grow up seeing education as something that they're forced to do. But in many parts of the global South, education is seen as an opportunity. Even when tuition itself may technically be free, families are still sacrificing tremendously just to keep children in school, with the fees associated with the uniforms, the supplies, the transportation, the books, the testing fees, the meal cost, and so on and so forth. Like, I met some families while I was out there where the parents were making huge sacrifices just to keep their children enrolled in school. And, because of that, many students approach school differently. Like, there was more appreciation and there was this collective accountability, Juxtapose that to what we got going on here in the U.S., where many people in the world believe where we have the best education, and that actually doesn't translate to the K through 12 experiences. Like, what a lot of people don't understand is that in the US, because of the labor laws that we have, that we used to have, children couldn't be working like during the daytime. They had to go to school. So because of those laws, if a child misses however many days of school, the parents actually have to go to court, and they can get fined or worse, thrown in jail. So that's the type of time that America is on, whereas in other parts of the world, they don't necessarily have those labor laws. So if you go to school, cool. If you don't, okay. And we know that there are a lot of children that are currently working in places that they don't got no business working. So, that's also a huge difference when it comes to what's happening in the US as opposed to other parts of the world, or especially in the global South. I remember realizing very quickly in East Africa that many students actually wanted to be there. Education wasn't being treated casually, because people understood what access to education could potentially mean for the future of their families. And honestly, that humbled me, because here in America, especially for me, after living and working inside of the education system for years, you notice very quickly how disconnected students become, from their learning, from themselves. And it's not because they're not smart. It's not because they lack potential. But you can see the spiritual exhaustion on people here in America. Like, it doesn't take you long to see that, And even if the masses don't say it audibly, part of that exhaustion comes from the culture here. And I'm not saying that it's embedded within Americans, especially Black Americans. It's definitely something that we've been fighting for a long time. But this America Incorporation has normalized these things. And I finally, when I was in East Africa, had something to compare it to. So let's take language, for example. One of the things that amazed me was how many of my students spoke multiple languages, like, effortlessly. You could hear somebody speaking their tribal language at home, Swahili in social settings, and English in academic, locations. It's normal to see people speaking 3 languages there. And here in the US, people barely know one language fluently. So I'm not being judgmental when I say this, but I know from my professional experiences that language changes the way that you understand the world. Okay? Language shapes our relationships, language shapes our cultural memory. And I honestly think America suffers from this kind of cultural siloing where people are isolated linguistically and culturally without even realizing it. When children grow up in multilingual environments, they are often naturally learning how to adapt, how to navigate different worlds, how to navigate different cultures, like naturally. And this is a gift. This is a gift. This is a valuable asset that many people in the world have over Americans. So just keep that in mind. Another thing that changed me was learning about education for self-reliance through my research for my film Teacher Don't Teach Me Nonsense. This philosophy came from Julius Kambarage Nyerere, who was the first president of Tanzania. And he believed education should help communities sustain themselves rather than simply producing workers for capitalism. He believed that children could learn about agriculture and cooperation and community responsibility in schools. That did not have to be something that lived outside of the school day, but it could be incorporated into the learning. Even though I only saw fragments of this philosophy implemented in practice, just learning about it expanded my imagination. Because it also made me realize, education does not have to look the way that America says it looks. In the US, success is often framed almost entirely by degrees and career titles and what you can produce in the name of capitalism. I'm looking at you, entrepreneurs. We're more than capitalism, people, okay? And education for self-reliance, asks different questions than capitalism. It asks, can community sustain itself? Can people feed themselves? Can we work together? Can we learn how to improve our collective well-being? And that's a radically different approach to living. Because whatever's happening here, I think many people can feel it, but they can't fully articulate it, but there are children growing up in environments here in the US that are technologically advanced, okay? Super advanced, but emotionally depleted. And many of our children are overstimulated and anxious because of it. And then on top of that, schools in America feel more like a war zone than an actual learning environment because of school shootings. We need to talk about this more. We need gun laws, people, please, something. This is demonic. I never once in Tanzania experienced school violence or this underlying fear of just entering a school building. And America Incorporated has normalized this to such a degree that people don't even realize how psychologically damaging that environment is for our children. It's not healthy for your nervous system to constantly be searching for danger. That's abnormal. That's demonic. And living outside the United States helped me really hone in on how many things we've accepted as normal that are actually deeply demonic. But, y'all already know. That is the problem. So I want to circle back to discipline for a moment because I want to be clear there as well. There were definitely moments teaching abroad where I saw forms of public shaming and corporal punishment that I personally don't agree with at all. I don't believe children should be abused. And I don't believe that fear creates healthy learning environments either. But I also think the US has swung into the other side of the extreme, where many schools and families have lost this sense of collective accountability and structure. Because of that accountability and structure, education still carries a social value in the global South. People respect teachers differently out there, completely. Man, I would love to create an exchange program between students in the US and students in the global South because I think American students could really benefit tremendously from seeing some of the things that I spoke about. But maybe I'll talk about that in the future. Anyway, there's so much that I can say, but I I don't want to overwhelm you all because I feel like I go to different points and topics in my videos right now. So thank y'all for grace as I figure out how to do the YouTube and this whole thing. So I'm just going to end my soliloquy there. But if any of this resonated with you, you know, bring your subscription on over here because I'm into this deep conversation right now. And moving forward, I'll be speaking about, again, just education, regenerative agriculture, holistic ways of living. And I want y'all to be a part of this journey. So, yeah. Sending love to all benevolent beings. Go and touch some grass with your people, please, and thank you. Amani na upendo.